Hi and welcome to the webinar. It's good to have you with us. We know that there's a few people still logging in, so we're just going to give a couple of minutes because we know what it's like. You get your links, you find them on the email, you've got to find your way and navigate yourself to the watch links. So let's give a couple of minutes just for people to get in, get settled, and then we'll start. While that's happening, do me a favor, drop your name in, where you're watching from, or even your company name in the chat. It'd be great just to find out who's with us today on this training webinar. Just in case you're not sure, on the screen is the title of the webinar. If that's not the one you were expecting, you probably hit the wrong link, but you're welcome to stay anyway. But we're going to be covering effective prospecting on LinkedIn. So it's quite a big topic. I'm going to try and get as much in as possible in the time that we have. But just looking around and checking who's we've got with us. We've got a number of people still coming in and just logging on. So anybody in the chat yet? Let's have a look and see what's going on. Okay, if you're not aware, we've been doing a series of training webinars, just helping people in the area of business, but particularly in the area of social selling. And we've been doing that for probably over 2 years now with Oxlep, and we're repeating these different training webinars every couple of weeks right up to Christmas, and then I think in 2022 we're looking at launching a new series as well. So tune in, check them out, find or go to the Oxlep business page on LinkedIn. Find the event section and you'll see a whole series there. There's not just ourselves working with Oxlep, there's a whole bunch of different agencies and training opportunities that you can tap into. Welcome Jeswyn, the guys from Banbury & Co Chartered Accountants. Hi Robert, hi Long Vu. Great to have you all with us. And yeah, so it's good. So Jeswyn from India. Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure how you found us. It was targeted for Oxfordshire, but you're more than welcome to be with us today. So I'm going to make a start. First off, though, I want to just mention Oxlep. This whole event is sponsored by Oxlep. Oxlep is a great organisation. If you're in the Oxfordshire area, please get in touch with them, drop by their website, the address is there on screen, and find out about the services, find out about the facilities, not the facilities, but the training and all the aspects that are available to you, the mentor groups, which leads me nicely into the peer networks, which is a fantastic initiative to come together with like-minded people all looking to develop and grow their businesses, where you can bounce ideas off each other and really help your business to grow. You know what it's like if you're in business, particularly if you're a solo entrepreneur. You're in a situation where you're more or less in your own bubble and you need sometimes just someone to bounce ideas off, get suggestions, learn from other people's mistakes, learn how they've succeeded and help your business forward. And of course you get to do that with others. It's a great initiative. Go to the Oxlep business page /peer networks, check it out and you won't regret it. Okay, so into the topic of today's session. So effective prospecting on LinkedIn. If you've been on LinkedIn for more than 5 minutes, you've probably realized that there's a whole, how do I put it, that there's a lot of people doing it wrong. And the people that you'll be most commonly bumping into are the people that you send a connection request to, or they send you a connection request, it's accepted, and within 5 minutes of the acceptance, you get hit with that sales pitch. They've hardly learnt your first name, you've hardly learnt their first name, and already they're saying, hey, we've got fantastic products, you should buy from us, this is why, blah, blah, blah. And in all truth, nobody responds to that stuff because there's no trust element, there's no relationship, you know nothing about them, and here they are trying to push a product your way. It's not a strategy that works. But what I want to show you today is something that we have been doing here at Maverick for a number of years now, probably coming up 3-4 years. A way of doing your prospecting, a way of creating leads, sales leads from LinkedIn in a or how shall I put it, a non-spammy way of doing it. There's no massive automation in this at all. It's really authentic, true, and it will get you the conversations that you're looking for on LinkedIn. So the first thing that you're going to need to do, if you want to be serious about prospecting on LinkedIn, you need to have a strategy. Now, the one that's on screen at the moment is a very simple strategy. It's one that we use. So we're starting here with positioning yourself. When we talk about positioning yourself, we're talking about understanding who you are, understanding what it is that you deliver, what are the problems, what are the problems that you tackle, the solutions that you bring that enable that to happen, and really encompass all of that in your value proposition. So you know who you are and how to position yourself. The next thing is the roadmap. You need to have that roadmap. How are you going to get from where you are today to the prospects? Do you know where your prospects are? Do you know the directions in which you need to go in? Are you even on, and I'll put this out, are you even on the right platform? Are your prospects here on LinkedIn that we're going to be talking about today? Or are they on different platforms? You need to have your roadmap in place. How are you going to get to those clients to have those conversations? Then there's attention. There's certain things that you need to do to get people's attention, because you're going to have to appreciate you start from the point that they do not know that you exist on planet Earth. So you've got to get their attention. There's different ways of doing that, and I'll cover and touch on that throughout this session, of how you can get their attention, hold their attention, which will then lead you into them showing their intent towards the products, the solutions, the things that you have to offer. Those that show the intent, that is now your prospecting pool. These are the people that have shown interest. These are the people who want to know more about what you're doing or have a need for what you can supply. And then the last one is where we all want to be, which are the results. Very simply getting to the point where we've got a conversation that's progressed so far. Now we're actually looking at securing that conversation, whether it be video call, phone call, or in-person meeting, where you actually talk serious business and look at sealing the deal. So you've got to have a strategy, whether it looks like this, whether it's mapped out in the way that we do it or something differently. It's entirely up to you, but you must have a strategy. If you're just, hey, I've got a great product, let's go and see if I can find somebody who wants it, you're going to waste a lot of time. You not know where you're going. All of your efforts may come to nothing. You don't want that to happen if you spend a long time developing a service or a product. You want to get to the right people, having the right conversations at the right time. Okay, talking about LinkedIn specifically, there are, in a sense, to make that process work, those principles work, that you've got the roadmap and everything else working for you, you need the machine of LinkedIn to work for you. And so we encompass this in what we call the 4 cogs of LinkedIn. The first one being the content. So you're going to have to create content on LinkedIn if you want to get people's attention. Why? Well, you could go about just finding the right people to connect with, sending them connection requests and trying to get conversations. But what content does is establishes you as a voice in this area. It establishes you as somebody who has an expertise in this particular thing. So that the people you send connection requests to, they're going to come and check your profile. They're going to come and find out who you are, what you're talking about, and what they're looking for is, do you know what you talk about? Do you know your stuff? Are you the expert that they need? Are you the person with the solution that they need? And a lot of that is going to be evidenced by the content that you share on the platform. So you want to be writing content. We would always advocate that you're putting out content on a daily basis. You want to be there regularly, consistently, building up a trust with the prospects that you're targeting. That you will position your content. Positioning your content with your contacts, with your prospects is quite easy. If you can get them to engage with your content, the algorithm then works in your favor to start presenting your content to those individuals. The algorithm effectively says, okay, if it's my content, Terry Heath's content, then they're going to say, okay, you liked Terry's content yesterday, therefore we'll present it in your feed tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Because the algorithm works to give people what they want, what they're interested in. And so if they take an interest in my content, the algorithm will work in my favor. So make that happen for you. On the subject of content, here's a tip. Don't make it all sales, sales, sales. People bore of that very, very quickly and will actually switch off and stop engaging with what you're doing. The engagement being a view, a like, or a comment, they'll skip past yours in their feed and go to somebody else because they get used to every time I read it, you're just trying to sell me something. Talk about the pain points that those prospects may have. Talk about the results of the solutions that you bring, or the services that you provide, or the product that you've created. Talk about them. In other words, talk about where they are now, what are all the issues they have, what are the symptoms of those issues, so that they understand that you know their problem. But then also talk about the solution. What does the future look like if those pain problems are removed, those challenges are resolved, whatever they may be? In between the pain point and the painted picture of what your solution can do, it's where the money is. That's just the honest truth. That's the solution, the product, the service, whatever it is that you bring sits. It bridges the gap between A and B, and that's where you want to be. So talk about that. Become so regular and consistent on the platform talking about these things that you become a leading thinker for that individual. You don't have to be Mr. Professor in your particular area of business. You just have to be the person that they hear and see talking about their issue most commonly. For them, when they think, I need someone who provides a solution, you're the first person that comes to mind. So establish that through your content. Then we move on to the second cog, which is engagement. Now, when it comes to the engagement, we're talking about how do I actually move from now they're aware of me to actually engaging that individual, so we start to nurture and build relationship on the platform. Well, you can do that by sharing articles. You can do it through strategic engagements. And what I mean by that is, one of them is mentioned underneath, things like jobs changes, birthdays, work anniversaries. You'll see those pop up in your feed, in your network and your notification settings. Take the opportunity, if it's your prospect, to just congratulate them for their birthdays or their work anniversaries or change of jobs, all of those sort of things. Take the opportunity to actually engage with them. Endorsing individuals. We work with clients all over the world, and we know that endorsements in places like the US work incredibly well. There's something about the culture. You endorse somebody, they reciprocate. It does happen here as well in the UK and Europe, but not as much. But if you're comfortable to, endorse the person. I can guarantee you they will at least reciprocate with a thank you. Now you've got an opportunity to start a conversation. But what you need to be doing in this engagement stage, or on this cog, is the cultivation. This is the cultivating the relationships, nurturing those relationships with those individuals, not pushing sales, sales, sales. Be interested in the individual, be interested in their company and what they're doing. Talk to them like it's a person, not just a prospect. Get to understand who they are, what they do, how they tick. You'll start to pick up a little bit about their personality as you progress conversation. I'm going to talk more about the conversation side towards the end of this presentation. Then there's the connection stage. Now, if you're posting consistently and you're doing the engagement side, by the time you send your connection request, it's highly likely they will accept. Why? Simply because they're aware of your name, they're aware of your face, because you've appeared multiple times on their notification feed, to the point where you spark the curiosity. We've gone from awareness to curiosity. Okay, they know who you are. Now they want to know who are you? So they'll be clicking on your name, getting through to your profile. When they land on your profile, and it's important that your profile is actually optimized so that the information you want a prospect to see is delivered. I'll give you a tip. When somebody lands on your profile for the first time, the first thing that will draw their eye, or should draw their eye, is the banner header on your profile. That banner header, make sure that there's graphics that relate to your industry or your area of business. Make sure that your company logo is on there, and make sure there's some wording that just clearly says what you do, because it will draw their eye, grab their attention, and it becomes a memorable image that sticks in their mind as they're getting used to who you are and what you do. They're going to go through your profile. They're going to look at your expertise, your past employment, and they'll end up clicking on the company page that's attached to your profile. And people will learn who you are and what you do. And so keep that in mind as people are coming. When you send those connection requests, this is what we want to have happened leading up to it. When they get that connection request, the response should be, I recognize the name, I recognize the face, I've already been on his company page, I've already been on his profile, I have a good idea of who he is and what he does. when they're accepting, it's almost the admission of, okay, I'm willing to have that conversation. Nobody's naive on LinkedIn. We're all here for business on the networking opportunities. There is a percentage of LinkedIn that's about recruiting, but unless you're in that world, unless you're looking for that, you're not going to bump into those. You'll be on the business side, predominantly B2B, but B2C opportunities are there as well on LinkedIn. So connection request sent, it's now highly likely they will accept. I normally run at a current rate of around about 70% acceptance rate when I send connection requests by following this. And I will show you a process at the end that we call the 7 steps of social selling that helps you accomplish this and make sure that your connection ratios are really high and that the conversations that you initiate are already starting before you've even sent the first message, the first statement, the question, whatever it may be. When it comes to connecting, let me just say, you should be focusing on second-degree connections. LinkedIn actually expects you to link with people through the people you know. So those that are first degrees in your network, it expects you, in a sense, to work through them and be introduced or to get to know people that they are connected to. It's relational in its in the way that it's set up and the way the algorithm works. So make sure you're focusing on second degrees mainly. 1 or 2 third degrees is not a problem, but don't make them your main priority. Make sure you're continually growing your network and grow your network with the sort of people you want to have a business conversation with. Don't just fill it with everybody and anybody, because then you'll end up with such a poor quality connections. Then you're going to be wondering months down the line, why am I not getting any conversations? Well, the people you're talking to actually aren't your ideal clients. They're not your target audience. You've just filled up your connections with everybody and anybody for the sake of getting numbers. Don't do that. Make it quality connections, target the individuals, understand who your ideal client is, search them out and find them on LinkedIn. And then with all of that working, these 3 cogs all working together, the content is going while the content is out there for people to engage with and see. You're then doing the engagement pieces where you're actually actively going out to the individuals that you want to have a conversation with. We're then building that towards the connection piece, and we end up on the conversion stage. In the conversion stage, you're looking from that pool of people that you're targeting. Who is actually interested right now? Who has got something going on in their world that needs my solution, my product, my service, whatever it may be that you offer? And you can do that by asking leading questions in your messaging once you're connected. If you're not aware of them, there's something called Smart Links on LinkedIn, which is available on the Sales Navigator Teams package. It's 1 level up from standard Sales Navigator. And on there, you can send out assets as PDFs, videos, ebooks, links to your website, and you can track the individuals from LinkedIn who actually go and visit that link, who take interest in what you're doing. It's a great way of finding out who's interested in what I have to offer. That's where I can concentrate my time, and those are the people I should be speaking to. Make sure that you've got calls to action. When you're doing your content over here, don't make it just a statement that people just read and move on, but actually create a conversation. Ask questions, ask people's opinion. Use LinkedIn polls to find the groups of people. LinkedIn polls, we call them a loaded poll, where you put a poll together in such a way that the options mean that people self-identify towards your solution. An example of that. If I was offering Sales Navigator training, I could ask the question, have you or are you using Sales Navigator? And the one could be, yes, we've used it successfully. Yes, it's okay, but nothing amazing. No, we've tried it, didn't have any success, and never tried it. 4 options. The people who say, no, we're not using it, tried it and it wasn't any good, and the people who say, no, never tried it, immediately become my pool of prospects for Sales Navigator training. I can evidence to them with training and using the tool properly how you can secure a good, healthy lead list through LinkedIn, and it can help you with your prospecting. So have calls to actions in there, use LinkedIn polls, do the micro commitment side, which again, I'll talk a little bit more about in conversation. The micro commitments is just, rather than having 1 or 2 interactions and then you go straight in for the sale, is you actually build towards it. But you might offer them a PDF with some tips and hints on. You might offer them some free advice. But all the time you're saying is, would you like this? Would you have 10 minutes? I can show you something, no cost, blah, blah, blah. It's micro commitments. And what they're doing is buying into you as an individual. You're evidencing your expertise, your products and services. You're able to show them and demonstrate them without actually turning around and saying, would you like to buy it for X amount of money? No, you lead in, evidence who you are, show your expertise, then you lead towards it. If it's done right, you will find that there's a point where they actually say, so, okay, what will it cost me to enlist your services or your product and things like that? They actually turn it around and they start asking you. Therefore, you're not having to push or pitch. They're asking you because you've evidenced who you are and what you do. So these 4 cogs are like the machine of LinkedIn. This works for you. Content working, you engaging with the individuals, connecting with the right people, and getting through to this conversion stage where you're focusing on those people that are interested in what you have to offer. The big goal on LinkedIn is to secure a conversation with an interested buyer. A lot of people are securing conversations, and that's quite easy to do on LinkedIn. The problem is they're securing conversations with people who have no interest or people who are just there to get something for free. What you want is to connect with an interested buyer, someone who actually has a need for what you do. And they've seen your content, you've established who you are, your conversation has led up to that point, evidencing your expertise, and now they're an interested buyer. At the point that you're having a conversation, it's a tick box exercise. They just want to say, okay, now I'm meeting the person, video call, phone call, in person. Do I like the person? Do I trust the person? Does what I've seen in their content measure up to what they're actually telling me right now? Is this a good fit for my company, for my business? It's tick box, tick box, tick box. And as long as your price point is good and acceptable to them, you'll find that most people who engage with someone who provides a solution for the problem they have, 83% of those people will buy from the first person who provided that solution. So you want to be in that space. You want to be that person that builds that trust. They have the conversation with you and they're highly likely to purchase from you. But the process has to work and you can't rush it. So I mentioned the 7 steps of social selling. Just let me grab a drink a second. So all that I just talked about, you actually get to put together in a process, and you need a way of doing business or doing your prospecting in an effective way on LinkedIn, because too many people access the platform and think, okay, I want to talk to some CEOs today. So they do a quick search, CEOs, they have a little look around, and now they fire a message off. Most of those messages will just be ignored. Why is the CEO has no idea who you are? That connect and pitch style just does not work. So on this 7 steps of social selling, there's stage 1 and stage 2. In stage 1 and stage 2, you're visiting, you're liking, you're commenting on your prospect's content. By doing that, you're showing up in the person's notification feed. Your face and your name will appear repeatedly for every like, for every comment. You are just viewing their profile. Of course, in the dashboard section, who viewed my profile, your face should be appearing on regular intervals. What you do is you spark the curiosity of who is this who keeps visiting my profile. I've seen them come back 2 or 3 times. I actually check who's viewed my profile every single day. I'll spend 5 minutes in there scanning through. What I'm looking for are who are those familiar faces. I've seen that person today. I saw them a couple of days ago. There's something in my profile that's caught their attention. So that's somebody I'm now going to work with and nurture a relationship with to find out what is it that's caught their attention, and let's see if we can nurture the relationship towards some business. So you're going to do the same. Visiting, liking, commenting on their content. Even before you send a connection request, you may not know it, but you can choose to follow somebody on LinkedIn. Again, it alerts the individual that you've started following them. But what you do in following them, it's almost like complimenting the person. By following, you get to see their content. LinkedIn will show their content in your feed. And so it's a compliment to the person. So use those opportunities to interact with the people. You're looking for 5 to 7 touch points with that person, liking, commenting, visiting, following, whatever it may be, over a 3, 4, maybe 5-day period, depending how active the person is on the platform. Then you send the connection request. At the point that you send your connection request and you're looking to connect with that individual, they should already recognize the name and your face at least. That makes it highly likely that you are someone who's vaguely familiar to them. If they've gone to the extent of visiting your profile and your company page, they'll know a lot more about you. And they will have already made an assessment by the time that connection request pops up. It's an instant yes or no. But you'll get a highly favorable yes if you've done this work before. If you just go cold in, visit a profile, send a connection request, you're probably going to get somewhere between a 20 to a 30% success rate on people accepting. You want to double that up at least to 60, if not up to where we establish quite often here is a 70% conversion rate on connection requests. But then comes stage 4. All of this up to stage 3 can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, but then stage 4 is critical. Most people miss this opportunity that when somebody accepts your connection request, what most people will do is, hey, thanks very much for accepting my connection request, looking forward to seeing what you're doing on LinkedIn or something like that, blah, 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 goodbye. And we all know what happens next. You never hear from them again. You forget about them very quickly. They're just another number in your connections. What you want to do on the thank you message is start or initiate a conversation. And the way that you do that is ask a leading question. Think about what is the question that's easy for them to answer, but is still relative to them. So an example of that, a few months ago, I was focusing on people in the finance industry, accountants, people high up in business in finance. And so I know the nature of that industry means that they can work remotely. So a lot of people are still working from home. A few people have made it back to the office. So asking a simple question, hey, thanks very much for connecting. Been checking out your post recently. Can I just ask, have you made it back to the office or you're still working from home these days? It's a very informal question. It's something that's relative to them and it's easy to answer. What I'm actually looking for them to do is respond. The nature of the question isn't as important as the fact of getting them to respond, because what I'm looking to do is educate them into a conversation. Why am I doing that? Well, it's because most people's experience on LinkedIn is, hey, I'd love to connect. Hey, thanks for connecting. End of conversation. And we're almost conditioned to that. But when the conversation goes beyond that and you're into the next 1 or 2 interactions following that, you will find that people start to get a little bit intrigued. Where's this conversation going? This is unusual. I don't normally get conversations starting up on LinkedIn. And they get a little bit more invested in that. So as long as you nurture the conversation, be focused on the individual, be focused on their company, ask gentle but leading questions about what they do and what they're challenged with, obviously leaning in more and more towards your products and services as the relationship develops and as the conversation develops, you eventually get to the point where you're starting to talk about business. And that's what you do from that point. Open-ended question, get them to respond and keep interacting, keep liking and commenting, visiting their profile. That just makes sure that they don't forget you. You keep appearing in their notifications. They will come back to your profile multiple times, I'll guarantee that, because we all do the same. We recognize the name and the face and we come back 2 or 3 days later. Who was that again? I recognize it. What does he do? I'm now back on the profile. But every time they visit your profile, they're learning something new about you. They're learning. They may visit your featured section on one visit. They'll be company page on another. They're visiting your past content and looking how you talk about your area of expertise, the services and products that you provide. And they're building up a picture of who you are, making judgments. Do I feel comfortable with this person? Do I trust them? Do they sound like they know what they're talking about? Is this somebody I would like to potentially have a conversation with that would help our business? And that's what you want to happen in this stage until we get to the very end, step 7, which is you securing that call that gets them on to do your demo, to show them the product, whether it be in person, by phone or video call. You're looking to secure that crucial conversation. But you've got to have a process of doing it. You can't just show up on their profile and skip this and just do the connection request, because the take-up rate or the conversion rate will be very, very low. And there's no guarantee that any of this will happen because this groundwork never happened. You have to do the groundwork first, then you get to the connection, then we move on and we instigate that conversation, nurture it through, and we get through to that point in the end. So let's have a little talk about who are your target customers. So I've got a random bunch of people and company names on here. Depending who your product and service is, and whether you're looking to go for individuals or companies, in this particular one, I'm using companies as an example. You have a product or a service that you could sell into companies or to individuals in that company. So you need to define who they are. If you're using Sales Navigator, and I'm not going to go into Sales Navigator in a big way today, we have a separate session that does that. But if you have Sales Navigator, you'll be aware that you've got a whole bunch of filters and criteria that you can use to tailor down a list that will help you define your target audience. Build those lists, define it down. I would recommend defining it down to around about 200 ideal clients and people you'd like to have a conversation with. From that 200, pick out around about 50 prospects, people you're going to work on right now, and then you use, if I go back, use the 7-step process to work through those contacts and warming them up. If you get to the point where they drop off, then you add somebody else in from your 200 and you put those on it. Never forget about a prospect just because you got a no or they went cold on you. Don't forget about them. Put them on the shelf, engage with them on a monthly basis. Just make sure they don't forget about you and revisit in 3 months' time. But let's focus on who are the target customers. Where are they? Which companies are they in? Which sectors are they in? Which positions do they have? Seniority? How many years have they been in a position? All of those things need to be considered so that you've got a defined list. Once you're in there, you need to think about mapping out. So in terms of looking at companies and selling into a company, if I'm looking at Mr. John Doe, CEO here, now I'm finding it hard to actually engage with this person. Why? Well, one, he's probably not on LinkedIn as often as I would like, or his account may be managed by a junior in the social media or the marketing department. So I've got to get past that. So I'm trying to build a relationship, but it's going very slow with this person. But I'm really keen to have a conversation with the CEO because I know if I can get the foot in the door, could be quite a lucrative deal for me. So what I do is I map out all the other people that would be around him. Think about, who is he going to be sat at the board table with? Who are the key people around him he regularly has the team meetings with? They're the sort of people that you want to now hunt out. Sales Navigator will help you do that. You can look at company pages, even on normallinkedin.com, and it will show you a list of people. Find the individuals. You may have to make some guesstimates about who they may be, but map them out and start connecting with those people. Again, do the 7 steps on them in a more casual way and build the conversation with these individuals. We've got lots of examples of where the name Maverick has come up in a team meeting. Why? Is because we've connected with half a dozen other people around the prospect, and when we've been talking to them about the challenges and we've had that conversation and discovered what it is that that company is most challenged with, but for us, particularly in the area of social selling, what they're trying to establish. And so we've offered some solutions, we've offered some tips to these half a dozen people around here. And now they're sitting at a board table and they're having a discussion and someone says, we've been working with, or I've been following, I've been reading a lot of stuff by this guy from Maverick. Suddenly the Maverick name is up now. And so now we're positioned because of the recommendation of these guys with the CEO. Now he's willing to take some time and find out more about us and pay attention. Now we've got awareness with this individual and we can build. So build around this person. We call this 360 connecting. We have the prospect, but we connect around them as well to get into the conversation within that company, within that business, so that we can get a foot in the door. So think about that. Don't just let it be just your prospects and you're struggling and not getting anywhere. Connect around them and develop relationships within the businesses. And what you want to do, and I've mentioned this, is you want to get their attention. You're going to have to accept that you're a total stranger. They don't even know that you exist on the planet. So you're going to have to spark the curiosity, get their attention for them to make sure that you are seen. Make sure that they know who you are. Make sure that they know what you do and that you're visible. You do this through your content. You do this through the 7 steps, making sure that you're showing up on their profile. Be seen and do it consistently enough that you're never forgotten. And then you seed your value proposition. That thing that makes you different from other people, why they should work with you, you seed that into your content on a regular basis. Not the whole thing in one go. You can't achieve that in one post. So if you did, it'd be a very long post. But you seed it in a bit at a time. Talk about that. Reference it through feedback, testimonials, reviews that you get from past clients. You put that all into your content. So as you're creating this attention and this visibility, it starts then to get their curiosity and leads into interactions with the individuals. The next thing is then we want to move. Now, not everybody is going to connect with you in the company, but I managed to get the attention of a few. That's fine. What I'm also doing, if there's more than just you in your company, you've got staff as well, get them active on LinkedIn, working on the same groups of people so that you now have multiple touch points from your company into this company. You're creating curiosity, they're seeing your value, they're understanding who you are and what you do. You're now entering the conversation within this business with a solution for the thing that they're challenged with, that pain point that they're going through on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, whatever it may be. You've got a solution. Let's be presenting it here so enough people in the business are talking about it, then you get the opportunity. One of these people will then lead through and there'll be somebody first who will have that first conversation, which might be, hey, let's have a video call, 10 minutes, let me show you how this works or how it's done, let me demo this to you, whatever it may be, and you want to work that through. But as you're working through and they start showing some intention towards your doing, make sure that you're looking at the insights that are available on LinkedIn and specifically on Sales Navigator and on their company website. Understand who they are and what they do so that you can speak directly to them, you can tailor your offering, that you can be very personalized in your messaging, understanding where they're at as a company and what they do. Customize your assets. So if I was to give out a PDF with some tips and hints, I would actually tailor it so it included their company branding. I'd try and mirror the colors of their company, and the wording would be addressed to them individually because I want them to understand that I'm taking the time. And it might be a templated asset that just I'm slotting in company names and colors and things like that. But to that person that receives it, it looks like it's been time has been taken over it and invested into. They are more likely to engage with it when it speaks more directly to them and it's about their company. And that's exactly what you want to happen. But focus on their key pains. So in your conversation, as you're starting to interact with them, just ask those leading questions. What is it you're challenged with? What are the problems you face? Are you facing the same problems that most people are talking about in your industry? What influence is that having on the business? How's that affecting staff, productivity, all of those sort of things? Find out what those key pains are so that you know what to talk about and what to go into. So we've done that, we've moved through, we're starting to get that, and they're showing intention. Then it's the conversation, that real depth of conversation that's gone beyond the hi, hello, nice to meet you on LinkedIn. We're now into talking more specifically about their business, and we're building that relationship. All sales is built on good relationships. It needs to be a two-way interaction. Some people make this mistake on LinkedIn when they're sending their messaging. It becomes almost a one-way traffic with the occasional response from the individual. Don't make it. Make sure it's a two-way. Use open-ended questions. Ask about them personally. If you spot things on their LinkedIn profile or in their posts on a personal basis, then ask them about them. An example of that very recently, I've been working with a gentleman in a large company, and he just happened to do a weekend post. He was celebrating his daughter's birthday. So when I messaged him on Monday, I said, hey, hope all the birthday celebrations went well over the weekend. You know, he didn't mention the age of the daughter. So, hey, how old is your daughter now? And so he comes back, I've got a daughter of my own, and so there's something there I can find in common. We could swap a few notes, and if he's got boys and girls, I'd say things, hey, have you found it easier raising boys than it is girls? And it's just a friendly, informal, but now we've got a level playing field in a sense that we've got something in common, something to talk about, and we're building relationship. It's all about building and letting them find out who you are, because people will want to know who you are as an individual and your character if they're going to do business with you. So making sure it's two-way, and do it at all levels in their business. You know, this group of people, don't be scared to go after and talk and nurture a relationship with the assistant of somebody. Remember, that assistant will actually have a voice with their boss, with the person that's their line manager. So, you know, look around the business. Who are the key people that I should be talking to? Don't just make it the CEO, because the truth is, he might not be the one. He's allocated a budget somewhere else, and there's somebody else who has the decision on how that is spent. It's up to them. So you may need to come down and be speaking to the middle or senior management level rather than the CEOs or partners in a company. So look at doing this on all levels. Now, I'm appreciating you're probably at this time thinking, this sounds like a lot of work to get through to one person in a company. It is, but if you got through and you secured that deal, what would that be worth to you? So how much time are you willing to invest to secure that? It's as simple as that. So when it's setting up the conversation, and I'm just checking the time, I've got 20 minutes or so left. Setting up the conversation is, as I've mentioned a few times, you're going to have to start from the awareness stage. They don't know who you are. There's a principle called multitrading in LinkedIn, and this is built into the algorithm. The algorithm will actually check your number of interactions with somebody's profile on the platform prior to sending a connection request. And if you've ever had that notification, your connection activity looks unusual compared to other users or the average user on LinkedIn, the reason you've seen that is because you're visiting and sending a connection request, or they're just in your suggested list on your profile and you're going, oh, they look good, oh, they look good. There's no relational contact. There's no investigation. Who is this person? What do they do? Are they likely to be somebody I'd like to do business with? The algorithm is expecting you to do that. And remember to do that through second-degree contacts. So make sure you are doing those interaction steps that I talked about in the 7 steps prior to sending connection requests, or else you will find yourself limited by LinkedIn. Do that enough times, you'll get a warning the first time. The second time, they'll put a restriction on that will stop you connecting with people for a period of 2 hours. Then I think it steps up to around about 8 hours. Then it'll go a full day. If you're persistent in doing it, they'll block you altogether. So make sure you do the best practice, visit the profiles, interact with them before you're sending connection requests. That way you create the awareness through the 7 steps principles, and your content will also be working for you. Introductions. Remember, if you've got Sales Navigator, you've got an in-mail allowance. I think it's 20 in-mails for the standard Sales Navigator, then it goes up to 30, 40, and if you're in the enterprise, you'll have a bespoke number of in-mails. An in-mail enables you to send a direct message to somebody before you are a first-degree contact. When the message arrives, the person has to accept the message coming in before they can read it. But it means that you can initiate a conversation with an individual before you even become connected as first degrees. So use those options. Talk about, compliment them on their content. Make a comment about their content. Hey, I saw your post today, and that point you made about blah, 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 really interested me. Would love to talk more about this. If you'd be interested in connecting, here I am. Great way to get people. Also the introductions, thinking more now once we actually become connected as first degrees, using audio and video message is a very good tool for getting somebody's attention. Purely because audio or video, you've got to click on it to find out what is the content. But the fact that somebody took the time to do a personalized audio message, or even better, the video message, people remember that. I've got people who've sent that to me and I can still remember their names today. Why? Because it's unusual for someone to do that. So when it is done, you become memorable. And so you're progressing it on. Conversation-wise, they're aware who you are. You've made your introductions. The conversation is now starting. Remain relational. Don't get too businessy too quick. Educate them to converse and get into dialogue with you. You do that with your leading questions. Make it easy for them to answer, lead on from each one each time. And then identify the need by making sure that your questions start to lean towards your products and services that you offer. And ask those gentle questions that lean a little bit further in each time until you get to the serious question of how you could help them, and you can start to evidence that. The conversion side, one of the things I would really say at this, do not rush it. There's a lot of people who get through and they think, look, I've been working on this person for 3 weeks. I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to send them, this is what we do, and this is how we can help you. And they blow it. It happens so many times. Don't become impatient. Stay with that conversation, build it up over time, and it will take a little bit of trial and error. You begin to gauge almost instinctively when is that point to say, can we have a call? Could you spare me 10 minutes? Can we set up a time to do a demonstration? Or let me talk you through this. Let me show you it on screen. I can screen share and show you how this all works. You'll instinctively get to know that point. Once you can gauge that and understand that, then you'll take your conversation through without rushing them to a natural conversation that leads to those points. But make sure you know who that individual is. Be interested in them, be interested in the company, and be asking those questions that lead to the pain points that you can solve, you can answer, you can remove. And even if they don't respond or they seem to go cold on you, always leave the door open. Don't just shut it down, walk away. Just say, hey, that's not a problem. Do you mind? I'll probably drop back in the next couple of months or so, just see if I can help in any other way. Always keep the door open. Basic thing in sales, never shut that door. Leave it open as wide as possible. Setting up the conversation. Well, as I've mentioned a few times, never cold connect. Create awareness before connecting. That's all about the 7 steps and doing particularly step 1 and 2. Use the principles of multi-threading. That keeps you safe. That's the best practice on LinkedIn. Create the curiosity with your prospects. Through your content and what you talk about, they will start to get interested in what you do and what you have to offer. So make sure you're doing that consistently. And they should know about you before you even message. Before that first message lands in their inbox, after they become connected, they should know who you are and what you do. But you've got to do that groundwork first. So when it comes to the point of starting and initiating that conversation, you want to start asking questions even when you're commenting on a prospect's content. It's a great way of kicking off the conversation. Talk about what they're posting about. Ask them questions. Ask them, do you think this would work in situation A, B, or C? Would this work for another industry? Would this, whatever it may be, but what you're looking to do is engage the individual in a dialogue. Tag the prospects into your content. It's a great way of complimenting somebody. I've done this a number of times where there's a key person I want to have a conversation with. I'm nurturing the relationship, and quite early on, I'll see something in their content which I think, actually that quote or what they said is of real value. So I'll take that as a quote, a reference, and I put it into my post, and I build a post, and it will say this, principle A, B, C, D, D. As I read in John Smith, I tag him in his post where he said blah, 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 which I thought was a great point. I'm complimenting this individual. He's tagged in, so he gets alerted. And now he's more favorable to me because one is he knows I'm taking time to look at what he's doing. I'm now complimenting him with a quote or a reference in my own posting, which again pulls attention to his profile because he's tagged in mine. So use that opportunity. Use your in-mail allowances, I've already said. Send direct messages, which can only happen to your first degree connections. Send those messages. Once you're connected, use that facility. It's a direct message. That message coming into the inbox is far more personal than trying to just ask questions on their content. So use that opportunity. Utilize the send option on posts. What you can do on a LinkedIn post is when you see your prospects post, you can click the send option and tag them in. So in a sense, you send their post back to them. Why would you do that? Well, simply when they open it, their curiosity is sparked. Why am I seeing my own post? you're using it to get their attention, and then you comment about their post, and then you may ask an open question to initiate the conversation. But it's about grabbing their attention. Use text, audio, and video messaging, as well as I already mentioned, and check the contact info for their email address. I get this all the time, as a number of people will contact with me, and 2 or 3 days later, I get an email because they've spotted my work email address is in my contact info if people want to get in touch, and they'll email me. Now, at first, I might be, hang on, who is this and where have they got my email from? But it doesn't take long before I suddenly go, I recognize the name. This guy is from LinkedIn. But now what that person has done with me is created 2 channels of communication. I now have email and LinkedIn messaging. So depending where the conversation moves fastest is the one that I would stay with. If I've used email and now they're responding quickly on email, I'll stay there. If not, I'll go back to LinkedIn. So use those opportunities when you're prospecting. Now, recommended is being genuinely interested in your prospects and their business. That is important. You can't just turn this around and it be all about you and all about how fantastic your products and services are, because in truth, they don't really care until you've been able to evidence the value that you have to them. So you're going to have to create the conversation and evidence that. So be genuine, be interested in them so you can speak into their situation and personalize it. Use company information available on Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator has a whole raft of insights about companies. A particularly useful one is the chart that tells you about the employee figures. A number of companies that I've been targeting recently have had accelerated growth in the number of employees in the company. So a very natural question is, hey, spotted on Sales Navigator that you guys have almost doubled your staff in the last 18 months or 2 years. What triggered that? I'd love to know how, what was behind that. It's something that shows interest in their business. A lot of people will reply and say, hey, well, we've got a new division, or it was a new acquisition, or whatever it may be. But what I'm looking to do is initiate conversation using that information. Ask those leading questions. Don't just send a message and it's a statement and they don't need to respond. Leave something that would prompt them to respond to you. But be patient. Progress the conversation. Don't rush it. You will get there. Build slowly towards your pitch, getting towards that appointment, that, as I said, on call, video, or in person. Move slowly towards it. Don't rush it, and you will get there. And this last bit, what's on screen there is just a quick bunch of examples that we've mocked up, but this is a tracker that we use. If anybody would like to get a copy of this and use it for themselves, feel free to get in touch at hi@maverick.co.uk. I believe that'll be up on screen, and we'll get that to you. It's free of charge, but simply what we get is from LinkedIn. Once I've got my search and I know who I want to prospect, I put their first name in, their job title and their company, so it reminds me who they are. I put their LinkedIn profile URL so I can click from the sheet straight to their profile every single day and interact with them. I've got a status column that says whether it's in progress or whether we've ended the conversation or wherever I'm at. So I'm tracking where I'm at with these individuals, and I can have up to 50. In fact, our sales team actually have 75 each month on this tracker, and they work through. And what they're doing is they track their interactions as they go through. They track when the connection request was sent, how long it took for the individual to respond. They then mirror that sort of response time in the way that they interact with the individuals. And this sheet goes on with interaction 4, 5, 6, up to 7. And so it gives a reference point. And you can see there's colors, people use different colors and things like that to denote different things. But you've got to have, whether it's this or your own version of this or something similar, but you've got to have a way of tracking it, because if you're not tracking your prospecting, you lose all sense of where am I at with an individual, where's this conversation, when I set out what was my aim, what was the product or service that I was hoping to sell in here. All of those different things come into play, and so you need a way of tracking them. You also need to know, where am I at with this conversation? Is this conversation drying up now? Do I need to drop this person off and just keep them warm with a monthly interaction and then bring in somebody new that I can start working on? But you want to make sure, so our team, if they've got 75 on their list, they're probably looking for 20 to 30 active contacts at any given time that they're really investing time in over a week, developing relationships, evidencing expertise, giving out PDFs with tips and hints, ebooks that might be helpful, clips from videos, all those sort of assets and things. And it's all happening through the process of developing the conversation. So have a process. Make sure you're doing the right thing, targeting the right people, having the conversations with the right people. Don't waste your time just running around the platform almost in this scattergun approach, hoping that somebody will bite to your messaging and come back to you. Make it intentional. You'll find that the results are far more rewarding when you do that. Your time is far better used, and it just becomes a much better experience for you and the prospects when you're genuinely prospecting on a relational level on this platform. And that's pretty much it. So we've got just a couple of minutes left on this session. I'm just going to have a quick look, see what questions we have. Will you share the presentation with us at the end, said the horse's mouth. Love the tag name. Yes, we will. We can share this presentation with you, no problem. It will be made available to you. As you say, the email is there, hi@maverick.co.uk. Just drop an email in there and ask for the presentation to Effective Prospecting on LinkedIn, and we'll forward that to you. If anybody's wanting a copy of the social selling tracker to use as a tool, then please, again, just email us and we'll happily send that as well. Any other questions as we near a close today? I appreciate there was a lot of information there. I could have spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, show you how to do this, the practicals, but I found over time that a lot of people, they understand the mechanics of LinkedIn. What they don't understand is, how do I make those mechanics work for me in a way that I get the results that I'm after? The results being, I want to have a business conversation with somebody. So understanding a process, particularly the 7 steps of social selling, gives you a framework to work in, where you understand you have to do the groundwork even before you send a connection request. That actually puts you one step ahead of your competition, because most of your competition will be look for a contact, send a connection request. Build the relationship, let them become aware of who you are and what you do even before the connection request arrives. The conversation then becomes easier after that, because you're not starting from that point of creating awareness of who you are and what you do. There's already something in place. You're now building upon a foundation you've already started. And so you will find that the conversation goes forward a lot easier. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions coming up. I'm glad that you've stayed with me. It's been a good number throughout the webinar. As I say, the replay will remain available. Use this link, it'll get you to the replay. If you want the slides, not a problem. We'll happily send them to you. hi@maverick.co.uk. Just be careful how you spell Maverick. It's an unusual spelling. And please visit the Oxlep website. Go find out, if you're in the Oxfordshire area, go and find out what is available to you, how they can help you with your business. Doesn't matter whether you're a startup or an enterprise. They have courses, training, access to funding, all sorts of different things that they can help businesses with. So please get in touch with them. They're a great crowd. I do know, I think today they're actually out and about at a big networking day. So I was a little concerned, I'll be honest, that nobody would show up today, because I thought everybody in Oxfordshire would be at this networking day. But it appears that plenty of people were happy enough to listen to me for the last 60 minutes. But just to end, thank you very much for being with us. I hope that has helped. Please tune in for more webinars that are coming up. We've got 2 more that we'll be presenting for Oxlep leading up to Christmas. Go and check them out on the Oxlep business page on their events section and get registered, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you.